Hi, this is Margo. This is Monday afternoon, July the 8th, 2019, 5:42 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we're going to do an Arctic sea ice update today, along with an earthquake report. So it's been about 10 days since my last Arctic sea ice update, and so I have a slideshow prepared for you. First of all, this is from Climate Reanalyzer, and this is the snow and sea ice cover image from today, July the 8th, and this is what the Arctic is looking like right now. We can see the Baffin Bay up in Canada it's pretty much pretty well on its way to being melted all the way. We can see on the west side of Greenland is pretty much ice-free. The east side is ice-free from about midpoint down. We can see that coming on up from the Atlantic, Norway is ice-free, and coming on up towards Novaya Zemlya, there's just a little tiny bit of ice on the eastern side, and it's melting quickly around the coastlines. And over here, the whole coastline of Alaska has melted, and this coastline of Canada has melted, and right down here on the mainland, and then it's melting quickly on the islands and on the north of Greenland as well. So we're going to go back. My last update was on June the 26th, so we're going to start with that picture. This is where we were at on June the 26th, and I'm just going to click through so that we can see how it's melted and where we've been since then. So you can see the changes from day to day. And as it gets darker, it means that it's not as thick, it's less concentrated, and so that's showing the melting. And there it is from today. And I apologize for my voice. It's just the way it is. Now, I started recording these pictures last year as a result of this picture that showed up on Saturday, July the 7th, 2018, so a year ago. This was on Climate Reanalyzer, and I had just started doing reports. I started doing reports end of April, and I was starting with doing reports on cams as I was exploring that, and then I added the climate updates, going around and showing all of the different things on Climate Reanalyzer, and it's just evolved since then. And then I added in earthquakes in December. But this picture really caught my eye, and I was the only one that reported on this big hole that showed up in the Arctic sea ice, and no one else reported on it. And I did a video on it last year, and I said, did anyone else see this hole in the Arctic sea ice? And then the next day, here's what it looked like. And see a hole opened up here. And so it was an area. Now this is a computer model, and so it was an area in the ice that had blown open, or the waves underneath had sloshed it open, but it was so odd that it was a perfect rectangle, And if you look at NASA Worldview back to that day, you can see, you can make out there's quite a bit of clouds there, but it was interesting. Okay, what's next in my slideshow for you? Okay, here is the Navy GIF, the animated GIF. This is for 30 days. It's it goes back, is it 30? Yeah, it goes back 3 weeks and then a week into the future, so it goes through July the 14th. So you can see how much it's melted in the last 3 weeks, and it's really diminishing. So it starts on, I think it's June the 15th or something like that. Yeah, June the 15th. It goes through July the 14th. So we can see the old sea ice is gone, and you can see the holes opening up here on the northern edge of these Canadian islands. This is where the old sea ice used to live. And this nearest strait is opening up, and the sea ice moves. It moves down through there, and it's melting and coming out through there. And whatever is left over here on Greenland is very thin, so that by the time of my next report, there probably won't be any ice here on the east side of Greenland. Here it is as of today. This is the Navy model. So the purplish is the white is 0, and then this is the thickness, and then where it goes into lavender, that's about 1/2 meter. Then when it gets to darker purple, that's 1 meter thick, and then the blue is about 1.5 meters thick, and then it goes into the dark aqua. I mean, the blue is 1.25 meters thick. Then the dark aqua is 1.5 meters, and then the lighter aqua is about 2 meters. So it's quite thin. And the North Pole is right here where these lines intersect. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, I made this movie. I went on NASA Worldview today and made this movie. Started with June the 24th, and it goes through July the 6th. And this is the concentration. So you can see again, the changes day by day. And the blue, the more blue it is, the thinner it is, the less concentrated it is. No, it went June 14th. What am I doing? Yeah, it goes from June the 14th to July the 6th, it looks like. So you can see it's melting quickly, and I think now we're back to the beginning of June the 26th. We're back to that picture. So I have some websites to look at now. National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is for the Arctic. This is the sea ice concentration as of yesterday, and so this matches up with the animated GIF that we just looked at. And here it gives the report, and here's the graph, and we're tied with 2012. This dotted line is 2012, and that was the year where it was at least extent. But that they don't count concentration, they count extent. And then on the Greenland ice sheet, here's what it is today. As well, yesterday as of July 7th, the salmon areas on this graph or this picture is where it's melting right now. And here it is from June 1st to July the 7th, and all the colors, the chart is over here that shows how much is melted. And then here's the melt extent for 2019. And it jumped up. Remember, I showed this where it jumped up at the beginning of June, and then it went down, and it still melted a whole lot. It's still above the blue line, which is the median line. So they gave a report, and it says record melt event in mid-June. Between June 11th and 20, an extensive area of the Greenland ice sheet surface melted at its peak on June the 12th. Thawing climbed from the western and eastern coast to elevations above 3,000 meters or 9,800 feet. High air pressure and clockwise circulation around the island brought warm air from the south and sunny conditions. While several recent years have had similar early widespread melt events, the event of June 11th to 20 reached a peak of just over 700,000 square kilometers, or 270,000 square miles, setting a record for this early in the melt season. Models estimate the amount of melted ice at approximately 80 billion tons for that period. So they're talking about that peak period. Here's an overview. Then here's another graph, and so on and so forth. Sea level pressure, here's pictures. Rapid drop in albedo along the western flank. A very warm spring has heated the Greenland snowpack, preconditioning it for early melting. Although early season melting prior to the June 12 event was not record-breaking, the upper snow levels are more likely to thaw as summer proceeds. Estimated total meltwater and runoff from a climate model. So the total melt from June 11th to 20th was about 80 billion tons, of which about 30 billion tons ran off the ice into the ocean or was stored temporarily in lakes. So that will contribute to sea level rise. So there's that. And now let's take a look at worldview. I'll refresh this and see if we've got all the data in yet. Yep, it looks like we're good. So this is from today, July the 8th, 2019. And we'll just start zooming in. And so now that you know where the ice is, you can tell the difference between the clouds. Like here's the Baffin Bay. This is all clouds here. We can just see little chunks of ice through there. There's not enough to even speak of. Just little chunks of ice there. These are all clouds. Here's the nearest strait, and this almost melted all the way up. Here's the northern side of Greenland, and we can see it's broken up here. We can see where the snow is all melted, and this is the rock here, and these are little frozen tributaries here still. But you can see around the edges of Greenland, they've really melted a lot. And where it's not cloud covered, you can really see how far in it's already melted. Here's the east side. We've just got some strange clouds here on the east coast. Here's Iceland. It's been releasing methane. We've got quite a bit of cloud cover here. Here's Norway. It's ice-free. And this is the Kola Peninsula. This is part of Russia. And I'm learning more about geography as I go along up here. And here's Novaya Zemlya. And this is all clouds that we're looking through today. Here is Svalbard. These are all clouds here. This is ice-free through here. That's all clouds. If we click back, you can see fewer clouds here. We'll click back in a minute. I just want to show current conditions right now. Here's the Yamal Peninsula. This is the Gulf of, what is it? Gulf of Ob. That's what that's called. Yep, Gulf of Ob. It's got a bunch of brown stuff in it. Then, so this is all melted here. Here we're following the Siberian coastline around. We can see through the clouds where it's melted here up along the coastline. This is right on the East Siberia ice shelf. And here it's breaking up and melting quickly. Here it's already melted. This is the Chukchi Sea over here. Here is the Bering Strait. So here's Russia. Here's Alaska. You can see that it's totally ice-free around the coast here. And then this is no ice here. This is the Beaufort Sea. And then it's all broken up here as we come into the Amundsen Gulf and so on. And then this is where the old sea ice used to live, along the northern edge of these Canadian islands, and you can see that's all broken up. And now we're back to Greenland. So I wanted to show you something else. I've got the fires layer. There are a lot of wildfires burning in Alaska right now, and all of this is smoke. This gray stuff, that's all smoke from the wildfires. These red dots are all wildfires that are burning. And they've had record heat up there. They have broken all kinds of records for June. And these are fires burning in Russia, and so you can see the smoke coming up here. All this wispy stuff, that's smoke from the wildfires. So, and here's some more burning across Russia. And some more. So there are a lot of fires going on. So let's click back. Here it is from yesterday. We can see the ice edge here. This is the western edge. And that's the condition of the ice as it's melting on the edge. Now these are clouds right here where you see some definition here, and like it's embossed or something. Those are clouds. Here's Novaya Zemlya. We can see this western edge totally ice-free, and then this is a cloud over here, and here's just a little ridge of ice right here that's melting quickly. Here's the Yamal Peninsula, and this is melted all through here, this Gulf of Ob. And it's brown, and where it's like this whitish color, that's still a little bit frozen. But so I don't know what that is, what the brown stuff is. Whether it's sediment or what. But you can see here, the clouds are not quite so thick, and so you can see right through to the water. There's just not much ice here. Here we are. See? You can see. So the coastlines are pretty broken up, or melted even already. So if you want to look back at July 7th of last year, and we can see where that hole was. This is the hole. I'll back out so you can get your perspective. Turn off the fires. And so it was right up here. So on that model, on Climate Reanalyzer, it showed up as a rectangle, but here's what it looked like on Worldview. So these are clouds, and this is the ice edge that came around. So if we turn on the ice, let's see if it'll show here. That doesn't really show up. Not very accurate, I don't think. I don't know, I can't tell. So that's a little bit different than what we saw on Climate Reanalyzer, but you get the idea. And no one reported on that. I was the only one. And then the next day, it actually looks more clear in a way the next day. But I guess it got enough ice to where on their model on Climate Reanalyzer it closed up. And what we find is when the ice gets really thin like this and the water is moving a lot with the ocean currents and you get a lot of wind and stuff, it can move that ice, it can move it open, it can close it up, and you know, it just happens really fast. And there was a hole that had opened up down here on Climate Reanalyzer, right down here, and then it closed up. See, they called that a hole, and it is, and it looks different from day to day. So this is what it looked like about this time last year. Well, let's go back. Here's what it would look like this time last year. Here was Greenland. It still had a little bit of ice on the west side here. It still, look, this nearest strait was melting pretty good already. Don't know why I've got a hole there. But anyway, there's our tour of the Arctic. Come back to today. And now let's head into our earthquake report. Here we're looking at USGS for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours. We're showing 1,606 earthquakes worldwide. Now we're seeing a great uptick since all those earthquakes started in Southern California. Now this morning, okay, I took a screenshot. Let's look at this. As of 9:08 this morning, now this is the 4th day after the episode started. So this is just the last 24 hours, but as of 9:08 this morning, there were 1,177 earthquakes here in the episode region. Here's Ridgecrest, here's Searles Valley. This is the Coso Junction area where it's spreading out to. And there were 1,406 earthquakes worldwide. And so now it's 6:13 p.m. and there's 1,606 earthquakes worldwide. So now remember, this is the last 24 hours, so things as they're falling off, there are more coming on the map. So it's picked up, and so there's 1,354 here in this area now. So the number of earthquakes are picking up. They had fallen off a little bit, but now they're picking up, because this morning at 9 o'clock there were 1,177 here. So without it going down, they have to have the same number coming in to keep the same number as they keep coming off the map. And so with the number increasing since this morning, the numbers are picking up, is what I'm saying. So of these 1,606 earthquakes worldwide, we have 151 that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. Now, normally, well, before this whole thing started on July the 4th, I would normally see on all magnitudes about 200 earthquakes. It was an average of about maybe 180 to 200 earthquakes a day, maybe a little more. And of those, maybe 25 or 30 would be 2.5 magnitude or higher. And so that's the difference. So here we're showing 152 2.5 magnitude or higher. So the majority of them are in the event region. I'm just call it the event region. The majority of them are down there. But we've had some big earthquakes in the last 24 hours. And starting with, remember, these were coming in down here in Indonesia at the end of my report last night. This first one, here's one that came in at 7:24 last night. So I'm going to start right down here. I'm going to start, we'll start down here on Papua New Guinea. There was a 5.6 near Abepura. This was on land at 11:55 last night. So let's look at the little wave and see if any of these were going to cause a tsunami. Now these two are from Alaska, and these others are okay. Here's one from July the 7th in Alaska, and July the 8th in Alaska, and no tsunami danger from that one, and no tsunami danger from that one. So no tsunami danger here. That would be big enough to cause damage if it was in a populated area. Then over here in this area between these two little islands, it just keeps rocking. We have 12 here now in the last 24 hours, and this is a new one that just came in. They're calling it at Modayug, but I'm going to count it as in this area. This came in at 4.6 at 5:27 this afternoon. And these times I'm going to tell you are Pacific time, because that's my time zone. So we have 12 here. We're starting with this 5.1 at 7:24 last night, 4.8, 5.0, 5.5, 4.4, 5.8, 5.0, 4.8, 4.5, 4.9, 4.6, and 4.6. Now we saw, what was it, a 6.9 or something down here last night or yesterday, and so I believe these are all aftershocks from that. I'm going to pause the recording. I think I heard something. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So all of these have come in as aftershocks, and they're big, and the depth on these are 31, 38, 39. Here's a 40, 41, 43 kilometers deep, 35, things like that. Next, as we come on around our imaginary red lines, because the tectonic plates are not working right now on USGS, here's one off the coast of Taiwan of 4.7. They're calling it near Yonokuni, Japan, at 11:35 this morning. Coming on up, here's one on the mainland of Japan of 4.5 near Unohara, Japan at 6:54 this morning, 34 kilometers deep. Now Fukushima is up here, so it was not near that. 4.5 probably didn't cause any damage. They might have felt it though. Then up here off the Kamchatka Peninsula is another 4.5. This came in at 9:12 this morning. Coming on around, didn't mean to go out that far. Here's 4.5 in Afghanistan near Alakadari, Kuran wa Munjan. At 3:46 this afternoon, 109 kilometers deep. Then there was 5.7 here in Iran near Masjid Suleiman, Iran. It came in right at midnight last night. So that, depending on how close that was to any buildings or anything, that could have caused damage. It looks like it was up in the mountains, so maybe I don't know if it caused any damage or not, but that's a larger one. We normally don't see them that big there. Coming on around, we had one right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Now see this line? That's the red line. Just imagine that that's the red line where the two plates meet, and this is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. It's right on the tectonic plate. This was a 4.8 northern Mid-Atlantic Ridge at 1:26 this afternoon. Then coming on down to South America, here's one off the coast, a 4.6 near Valparaiso, Chile at 4:24 this morning. And then two on land, a 4.1 near Arica, Chile at 9:05 this morning. and a 4.0 near Tacna, Peru at 2:05 this afternoon. This one was 107 kilometers deep. So that one's pretty deep. Coming on up, we've got 2 on land in Mexico. Here's a 4.4 near Pon, Mexico. I probably didn't say that right. Anyway, at 12:42 this afternoon, 105 kilometers deep, and a 4.3 near Huatulco, Mexico at 3:18 this morning. I think that's all of the international earthquakes. And so now let's go to all magnitudes. Did this one? This one must have just come in. Yep, this one just came in at 4.7 near Las Ovejas, Argentina at 6:07 this evening, 149 kilometers deep. Now let's take a peek at Hawaii. We only have 2 here today, a 1.9 and a 2.0, both at Pahala. So then in the Caribbean, we've got 6 here today, 2.9, 1.3, 2.9, 1.3, 1.9, and 2.5. So that's just showing more movement there. Now in Alaska, we're showing 79 earthquakes here today. Of those, 6 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. Here was 4.1 Chirikov Island out in the ocean. 2.9 Kodiak. Here's a 2.6 Koktovik, 3.6 Kodiak, 3.0 Talkeetna, and a 4.3 at Arctic Village. This 2.6 at Koktovik was right at the surface, 0 depth. And this 2.9 is at 0 depth too. I always wonder when I see them at 0 depth, like what it's really from. Anyway, now all magnitudes, we can look at the activity. This Cook Inlet is pretty quiet. Just have a few here. Here's a cluster at Redoubt Volcano. That's a 2.2. And there's some more right around there. Here's Anchorage. They've only got 4 there today. This 2.3 is the largest one there. And here's a few in the little armpit. Here's some more icequakes. That's a 2.0 and a 1.9. Looks like another one underneath, a 2.3. And that's a regular 1.5 and a 1.7 there. And they're coming on up through the middle of Alaska up to the northern part where we're seeing some larger circles here today. We've got 10 total in this Koktovic region. Here's a 2.4, and so the 4.3 was the largest, and so on. And now in the Kobuk area, we've got 20 here today. Here's a 2.3. That's one of the larger ones. That is the largest one. Okay. Now coming on down into the lower 48, we're showing 1507 here. So let's get our calculator. 1507 minus 1367 is what's in the event area. So 140. So we've got 140 more earthquakes besides in the event area. So let's get started on these. Here's two, a 2.28 and a 2.2 at Quinton, Oklahoma. 2.8's getting up there. And here's a 1.9 Cushing, 1.6 Kingfisher, 1.6 Perry, and a 2.2 Helena. Looks like we had, here's a question mark on this one. They don't know. This one, I guess this one is new. Oh, at 438, and they're putting the magnitude with the question mark near Perry, Oklahoma. So they don't know the magnitude on that one. Oh, look. Here's one right by Fort Worth, Texas. It's actually in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. 2.6. I've never seen one here. Of course, I've only been reporting since December. But 2.6 near Rendon, Texas. This is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This came in at 10:02 this morning, and it was 5 kilometers deep. So it's so here's Fort Worth, here's Dallas, and this is a whole metroplex where I don't know how many millions of people live here, but it's a hub. And then this is, I mean, it's not in the city. It looks like well, 2.6 wouldn't cause any damage anyway. But here's Mansfield, here's Rendon. It looks like it's kind of away from anything. But that's unusual to see one there. Okay, coming on across. Okay, Arizona's clear. Coming on up into Utah, we've got a 0.5 at Garland and a 0.7 at Perry, Utah. And then coming up into the Yellowstone region, we've got 4 here today, a 0.9 West Yellowstone, 0.8 at Lima, 1.9 at Lincoln, and a 1.7 magnitude quarry blast at Butte, Montana, at 12:01 this afternoon, so they're back on schedule. So that's eerily quiet at Yellowstone. Now, looking at the Pacific Northwest, we've got 19 here today, so they're all clustered right down here. Here's a 0.4 at Paulsbo, Washington, and then the rest of these are at Mount Hood, which is a volcano. So we've got 18 at a volcano. But before we look at all of that, let's look at the tremor map. This is from yesterday. That's the most recent data that we have. From the 7th, we're showing 61 tremors, and we're seeing them up on the north end of Vancouver Island, and then we're seeing them down, where's this? To the south of Salem, Oregon, and up here north of Roseburg, Oregon, and nothing in California. So let's zoom in here. Here's Mount Hood. There's the volcano, or the mountain. Let's zoom in a little more. So they're on the flank of it. Let's see if any are at a negative depth. No, they're all around. The first one was a 4.1, a 1.0, Mount Hood Village. This came in at last night at 7:00 p.m. Then they kept going. The last one was a 1.6. It came in at 6:02 this morning. So these are small, but it's still showing a lot of activity. Here's one of the larger ones, a 1.2. Here's another 1.2. Here's the 1.6. That's the largest one. Let's look at this on Google Maps or Google Earth and look at the area. Let's see what's going on here. Here we go. So they're happening right down here at the base of this old volcano. There's the peak, and this is the cone area. Looks like a couple of areas where it blasted. So they're happening right at the base, right down here. Here's a government camp, not too far away. Maybe that's the name of the city. Government camp. Little town. Mount Hood Outfitters. Yeah, there are people there. So that's where these earthquakes are happening. A whole bunch of them. 18 right here. So let's come on down. Okay, Northern California. This one just came in. A 1.3 at Redwood Valley. Now at the geysers, they have 21 here today. That's kind of a average number. These are small, 1.3, 1.3. Those are the larger ones. And most of them are under ones there. Here's one, 1.7 near Angwin. This one came in at 11:30 this morning. So the San Andreas fault line runs all along the west coast. Here's one in the water off the coast of San Francisco, 1.0 near San Francisco Zoo. So the San Andreas fault line runs right down through here. These are on the line. 2.0 Gilroy. Here's a 1.9 Pinnacles. 1.4 Lake Nacimiento. And then here's a 2.0 Maricopa. 1.3 Grapevine. And we're going to come back to Southern California and look at all of those in a minute. I want to come over to Nevada now. Okay, coming into the Reno area, there is a 1.5 near Truckee. There's a 1.0 near Cold Springs. Here's a 1.1 near Fernley. It's just to the south of Pyramid Lake there. That's all clear. Here's a 1.0 near Gabbs. Now here's a cluster near Hawthorne. Look at this. I'm going to include this one in it. We have 20 here today, so that's an uptick, and most of them are clustered right here. These are small. 1.1 it looks like is the highest. Here's another 1.1, and the rest of them looks like most of them are under 1. Then coming on down to southern Nevada, we've got a few down here in the Beatty area. These are microquakes. Then we've got a couple here at Pioche. Here's a 2.3 and 0.6 at Pioche. And we had up here near Battle Mountain was a 3.6. Now that's getting on up there. We normally don't see them this big up here. And this came in at 741 last night, 8.5 kilometers deep. So now coming into Mammoth Lakes, we've only got 3 here, a 0.8, 1.3, and a 2.0. Normally we see more here. Here's a 1.5 at Big Pine. Here's a 1.1 near Goldfield. There's the event center. Here's a 1.1 near Beatty. We're going to come back to the event center last. That's just what I'm calling it, the event area. And then not counting the event area, here in Southern California, oh, here's one in Baja, 2.4 near Ensenada. That's getting up there. So, not counting the event area, we're showing 40 earthquakes in about the Los Angeles and San Diego area to the border. And so that's kind of an average. or a high average of what we normally see here. Let's see how many of those are 2.5 magnitude or higher. None of them. So those are, at least they're small or smaller. Here's a 2.2 at Ocotillo. Look, we've got a cluster going on here. Here's another 2.2, 1.6, and a 1.5. Here's one in the ocean, a 1.0 near Camp Pendleton South. We've got a cluster here of 3 near Indio, 1.2, 1.0, and a 0.7. Here's a 2.0 near 29 Palms. Here's the Kauai area. So not very many here, and they're pretty small. And let's come on up. We've got a few in the Glen Avon area. We've got 13 here today. Uh, 1.8, including over here at Colton, that's a 1.8. Here's a 1.2. San Bernardino, and so Glen Avon is right here. These are fairly small, but 1.7, that's kind of getting on up there. 1.1 Norco. Here's a 1.5 La Mirada. Here's a 1.1 actually in Los Angeles, and the La Brea tar pits are right over here off of Wilshire Boulevard. That's the landmark. When you see Wilshire Boulevard, the La Brea tar pits are here's Wilshire, and here's Fairfax, and here's La Brea. So it's on Wilshire, and it's between Fairfax and La Brea Avenue, or La Brea Avenue, and it's right here where the tar pits are. So this earthquake is getting close, and look, that was right at a major freeway. That was Highway 60. And here's like this major intersection with Highway 10 and 60 and all of these that come in together here. And this 1.3 was right at the highway, it looks like. Right on the highway. It's not big enough to do damage, and probably didn't even feel it. But it happened. Then, coming on up, here's a 1.3 at Pear Blossom. Oh, our fault line is back. Here's a 1.3 at Grapevine and a 2.0 at Maricopa. I think our fault line is back. Wow, it just came back. This red line is the San Andreas fault line. Okay, so now let's look at the event area. First of all, we can see that the general trend is this line, and this is that Garlock fault line that's being reactivated and opening up. And there's actually a split in the earth that's going up there. And you can see videos of this. I mean, they're all over the place on Twitter and everywhere. This is all over the news, what's going on. But we can see also movement is spreading out to the east, going up into the Panamint Valley, and it's spreading out to the west, and it's going up. So here it is. So right now we've got 1,381 there. So here it is again. So we've got the majority of these. Okay, let's look at 2.5 magnitude or higher. We can see they're just on that line. That's the line, and this is the COSO area. So they're kind of dividing up now. Here's a cluster here, here's a cluster up here, and then the cluster here. Here's Ridgecrest, and so it's going southeast of Ridgecrest and northwest of Ridgecrest. This is the China Lake area. It actually shows it on on the USGS map where it's grayed out. This is the China Lake Naval Base. This whole area. And see the square lines? That's the edges. That's the edges of the naval base. And so there's a whole bunch of them. See, right in the middle, and then they come down and along here. And most of the people who live in Ridgecrest are employees at the naval base. And we've got a few over here. Here's a 3.0 at Trona, 2.8. Here's a 3.1, 2.6. Now all of these are 2.5 magnitude or higher, remember. What, 3.8? Now I have not seen any really large ones in the last 24 hours. They were mainly in the threes and 2s. I haven't seen any 4s in the last 24 hours. So the magnitude has gone down, but the number is going back up. Now this is the COSO Junction area, and I showed on Google Earth and Google Maps. This is a whole old volcanic field, and this, I'm thinking this is all becoming reactivated. And with the split in the earth, magma could come up, is what I'm thinking. I mean, why not? This is all COSO Junction here, 3.5. And then this area is Little Lake. That's another outbreak, volcanic region area. I mean, when you look on Google Earth, you can definitely see these canyons and things there. And then if we look at all magnitudes, here's what it looks like. And we can see that the smaller ones are filling in around the larger ones. Now we're up to we're up to 1,381 in the event region. Now it's up to 1,383. 2 more just came in. And remember, the old ones are falling off the map. We've got the oldest, like this 2.5 at Little Lake that came in at 6:57 last night, is about to come off the map. And here's a 2.0 at Little Lake at 6:59. That's about to come off the map. So what this means is they're coming in faster than they're falling off the map. So that's an uptick in the number of earthquakes that are happening. So they're not out of the woods yet. And they're you know, people are predicting things and forecasting things, and I know they've said that in the next few days they're expecting a much larger one in Southern California. You know, I'm I don't forecast and I don't predict, but I just look at what's happened, and you know, it would be hard for me to stay there knowing, seeing all of this. But there's going to be an end for everyone. And considering, besides all these earthquakes and the fact that this Cascadia subduction zone could collapse, and if that collapses, then that could set off Yellowstone. And I've heard all of this stuff. I've been following different geologists and different reports, and this is what they're saying. And it could be the most catastrophic event the world has seen in a long, long time. And life as we know it, it'd be like that. And it would be life as we know it would be over for the majority of the United States, and definitely people over here. And if Yellowstone blew, then that would affect the whole planet. And they're expecting that. They're saying all of this is going to happen, that it's all overdue and everything. And so with that, given that, and the melting sea ice, and the the methane coming up, and everything else, I don't know if I would leave. I don't know. Where would you go? And what would you go to? And how would you survive? And without electricity, if you haven't been living off the land for the last few years, you're not going to learn to live off the land in 5 minutes. Seriously, you're not going to learn how to make a fire from rubbing 2 sticks together. You're not going to learn that. And if you've got a bunch of seeds stored up, you're not going to grow them if you haven't been gardening for a long time, for years and years and years. And the climate has gotten to where people can't grow anything anyway. So I just think the end is near. And I think, obviously, every day we're here is one day closer to the end. And that the most preparedness that we can do is get our spiritual house in order, be ready to leave, whatever that means to you. For me, it means something different for me than it does for you or for anybody else. And be at peace. Do a life review. If you need to make peace with anybody, if you want to say you're sorry to somebody, if you want to say I love you, if you want to, wrap things up, now's the time. Because soon you're not going to have any more time. It's coming down fast. And I'll be reporting as long as I'm here and able to, and as long as the internet is up and we have electricity and nothing happens to me. I'll be here reporting. But I don't know what else to say. I just feel like it's direly short now. Time is very, very short. So, I love you guys. And, if you're young and you have preparedness skills and you can do that, more power to you. But you got to remember all these nuclear reactors that we have too, all along the coastlines. Those are going to blow. You know, you're not going to have food and water that's going to be healthy. And I don't know. It's just, for me, it's like, what's the point? I would rather not live after a big disaster like that. I would rather just, I want to be at ground zero for me. But I'll be here until God says time's up. So until next time, I love you guys. I'm praying for everybody. So God bless you. Go in peace, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night.